I watch helplessly as my mom slips away, betrayed by the very system meant to save her. Instead of celebrating her 60th birthday, my family and I mourn her absence, a devastating consequence of a biopsy misread months earlier. It should have been a routine procedure that led to timely treatment, but instead, it turned into our worst nightmare. I remember Linda M. Thompson, 59, in her elementary classroom, the familiar smell of fresh crayons filling the air as she meticulously prepared creative lesson plans. Her passion for teaching was contagious. We trusted healthcare implicitly back then, believing in its safety net. She had dreamed of a trip to Europe with my dad, exploring art history. She talked about it constantly. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. Then, last March 15th, 2022, Mom underwent a biopsy at XYZ Medical Center after discovering a persistent lump. Early tests indicated non-cancerous abnormalities, leading to a profound sense of relief. But the lump kept growing. Persistent pain began. Alarm, not relief, soon followed, demanding new answers. After Mom's biopsy at XYZ Medical Center, the wait for results gnawed at us. Her persistent pain, a dull ache in her chest, grew worse daily. We returned a week later, anxious to meet Dr. Jenna L. Marks, the oncologist. She walked in, radiating an almost unsettling confidence. Her bright smile felt incongruous in the sterile exam room, a stark contrast to the clench in Mom's jaw. Dr. Marks barely glanced at me before addressing Mom. "Good news, Linda," she stated, flipping through the chart. "The results confirm what we suspected, benign breast tissue. Nothing to worry about." She recommended a routine follow-up, suggesting we revisit in 3 months. My chest eased, a rush of oxygen filling my lungs. But then I saw Mom's fingers, lightly tracing the spot where the lump still resided. That old familiar discomfort hadn't vanished. The doctor quickly dismissed the elevated markers on Mom's recent blood tests. "Just stress-related, very common," she said, a wave of her hand ending further discussion. We left XYZ Medical Center, the scent of antiseptic following us out into the cool March air. My mind grasped for the relief Dr. Marks had offered, desperate to believe her. Yet a cold knot formed in my stomach. Mom, usually so outwardly optimistic, walked with a slight stoop, her shoulders tight. The lump didn't shrink. If anything, it felt more pronounced. 2 months later, the pain escalated, sharp jabs that stole Mom's breath. Her optimism, once boundless, began to fray at the edges. I watched her meticulously prepare lesson plans, but her movements were slower, her brow furrowed. We couldn't ignore it anymore. The initial relief had evaporated, replaced by a growing dread. It was time to go back. On June 10th, 2022, Mom was admitted to ABC General Hospital's emergency department. It was a Sunday, and the place hummed with a thin, unsettling quiet. She complained of severe abdominal pain. The resident physician, a young guy named Marcus Johnson, attributed it to gastric distress, likely post-viral inflammation. My mom's BSAS score registered at an alarming 11. "Her pain is through the roof, doctor," I pointed out, trying to keep my voice even. Marcus just nodded, flipping through her chart. "Common with flu-like symptoms, we'll monitor it." Mom's anxiety was palpable. Her fingers nervously traced the paper-thin hospital blanket. The next day, a new lump on her neck appeared. A different nurse, Jennifer Patterson, brushed it off as a swollen gland fighting off an infection, though the BCSAS score nudged to 12. Mom spiked a fever the day after, but the care team remained reassuring. "Just her body working hard," one aide chirped. 2 days later, Mom's condition visibly worsened. Her face was ashen, her body clammy to the touch. The BCSAS score climbed to 13. A senior attending oncologist, Dr. Richard Evans, approached us with a practiced, almost cheerful smile. "Good news, Mr. Thompson. Her blood work shows a slight improvement in some inflammatory markers. Looks like she's turning a corner." A brief false sense of hope flickered within me, a metallic taste in my mouth. But then I saw Mom's shallow breathing, Down the hall, our ally, oncology nurse Barbara Mitchell, hurried past, mumbling about protocol overrides and staffing gaps during a brief, strained conversation, before casting a worried glance over her shoulder. I confronted Dr. Evans. She's not better. Her pain is worse, and that lump on her neck is new. She needs proper imaging now. He cut me off, his smile fading. Mr. Thompson, we are following established protocol. These things take time. We have a full team on our case. His tone brooked no argument. The next morning, Mom was fading fast. Her breathing was dangerously shallow, her eyes unfocused. The BCSAS score hit a critical 15. It was a holiday weekend, and the hospital operated on a skeleton crew. Marcus Johnson, the resident from day one, was again alone on the night shift. He documented Mom's severe pain, noting a 910 on the scale, but delayed calling senior staff, citing heavy caseload and senior physician unavailability. I grabbed his arm, desperation clawing at my throat. Please, she's dying. Don't you see it? High fever, pain, that lump. Get someone, anyone, to look at her properly. My voice cracked, raw with fear. Marcus stammered, avoiding my gaze. I've logged the concern, sir. We're waiting for the attending's rounds. Procedure requires... He trailed off, shrinking into himself. Suddenly, Mom gasped, a rattling cough echoing in the sterile room. Her body convulsed. The monitor shrieked an urgent, piercing alarm. The medical crisis had finally erupted. Suddenly, Mom gasped. A horrifying, rattling cough tore from her throat, echoing in the sterile room. Her body convulsed violently, arching against the bed. The monitors shrieked an urgent, piercing alarm. The medical crisis had finally erupted. Marcus Johnson, the resident, stood frozen for a split second, then slapped the emergency call button. "Code blur!" he bellowed. Instantly, the room flooded with a blur of nurses and doctors. They converged on Mom's bed, a frantic, orchestrated chaos. I was roughly pushed aside, pressed hard against the cool, unforgiving wall, helpless. Barbara Mitchell, the oncology nurse, caught my eye from across the room, her face etched with profound dread. I stood frozen, my hands clenched into useless fists. They started chest compressions, a relentless, rhythmic thudding against her frail body. An oxygen mask was roughly forced onto Mom's face, the air filled with shouts, urgent medical jargon, and the incessant piercing alarm. My gaze was fixed on the monitors, a silent plea. Then the rhythmic thudding stopped. The monitor flatlined, a stark, unbroken line where a heartbeat should have been. The urgent beeping faded to a low, continuous tone. The frantic efforts ceased, the room falling into an eerie, heavy silence. Dr. Jenna Marks, the oncologist from XYZ Medical Center, now somber and devoid of her usual confidence, met my eyes from across the bed. "We did everything we could, Mr. Thompson," she stated, her voice hollow. "I'm so incredibly sorry. She's gone." The room spun violently around me. My knees buckled, threatening to give out completely. That devastating moment changed everything. The real fight, my fight for justice, had just begun. Weeks blurred into a gray, heavy fog after Mom passed. The antiseptic smell from the hospital seemed to cling to my clothes, even after laundry. Later that fall, a formal administrative inquiry by the State Health Department began, headed by Dr. Emily Reyes, chief investigator. She was methodical, her gaze sharp, yet empathetic, as we sat across from a stack of medical records, fluorescence buzzing overhead in a sterile conference room. "Mr. Thompson," she stated, sliding a timeline across the table. "We've reconstructed the sequence of events. The initial misread was just the beginning." My jaw tightened. The true horror wasn't just Mom's death. It was knowing it might have been preventable. During one review session, Dr. Reyes pointed to a specific entry. "On March 16, 2022, the day after her biopsy, your mother reported increased pain and the lump's growth. Her breast cancer severity assessment scale, BCSAS, score was logged at 11. Protocols mandated immediate imaging for scores above 10. Dr. Jenna Marks, the attending oncologist, had done nothing. Just routine follow-up, she declared, waving off my mom's concerns. Then Dr. Reyes highlighted another overlooked moment. May 5th, 2022. Your mom saw her family doctor with a high fever and lethargy. Her vital signs were deteriorating. He attributed it to flu-like symptoms. The Oncology Follow-Up Imaging Protocol, OFIP, should have triggered, requiring an urgent referral for imaging given her prior lump. Instead, a shrug. The third crushing detail came from the hospital records themselves. June 8, 2022, 11 a.m., just before her admission to ABC General, Dr. Reyes said, Mom reported a pain level of 9 out of 10 to a nurse. Standard protocol demanded immediate intervention by an on-call physician. Yet, it was dismissed as fatigue. Marcus Johnson, the resident, had documented her escalating BCSAS score, but it went unheeded by senior staff. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I saw her face, her worry. I'd seen these signs. They were clear, documented in black and white. Yet, nothing. The metallic taste of bitter truth filled my mouth. My hands clenched into fists, knuckles white. Grief was no longer my sole companion. A searing, righteous anger burned through me, electrifying every nerve. This wasn't some unavoidable tragedy. This was negligence. This was a system that failed my mom at every single turn. I knew then. This wasn't just grief. It was a call to action. I looked at Dr. Reyes, my voice low but steady. We need to make sure this never happens again. I'm going to fight for accountability, for Linda's rule. The meeting ended, but my fight was just beginning. I walked out into the crisp fall air, purpose crystallizing in every step. Weeks turned into a relentless cycle of interviews and document reviews. The State Health Department's administrative inquiry, led by Dr. Emily Reyes, had finally taken root. We sat in a sterile conference room, the hum of fluorescence overhead, a constant reminder of the clinical detachment. Dr. Reyes's gaze was sharp, probing beyond the cold text of the medical records. Mr. Thompson, she began, reviewing her notes. You've stated your mother's breast cancer severity assessment scale, her BCSS score, was 11 on March 16, 2022. This was after her initial biopsy at XYZ Medical Center. What happened then? Nothing, I stated, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. I explicitly mentioned the increased pain. The lump hadn't shrunk. Dr. Marks waved it off as benign breast tissue, a routine follow-up in 3 months. Protocol mandated immediate imaging for scores above 10. It just didn't happen. 2 weeks later, Dr. Jenna Marks, the attending oncologist, offered her testimony. We followed established guidelines, she insisted, her voice tight. Patient volume was exceptionally high. These things aren't always clear-cut at first glance. Her explanation felt hollow. Marcus Johnson, the resident, seemed less defensive. He acknowledged documenting Mom's severe pain on June 12th, an undeniable 9/10, but admitted, I lacked the confidence to override a senior attending. I should have pushed harder, sir. I regret that deeply. The hospital's initial response was a prepared statement from their legal team, citing complex medical scenarios and unprecedented staff shortages across the healthcare system. It was a familiar deflection, minimizing any institutional failures. Then, an unexpected call. Barbara Mitchell, the oncology nurse from ABC General, reached out. She'd been transferred departments, quietly furious. She provided Dr. Reyes with copies of her own detailed notes. I logged Mom's escalating symptoms, Barbara explained, her voice low. The new lump on her neck, the persistent fevers, the abdominal pain. I raised concerns multiple times in internal staff meetings. They dismissed it as protocol overrides for efficiency and staffing gaps. Her testimony corroborated everything I had said. That fall, Dr. Reyes released her formal findings. The report concluded Mom's death was preventable with timely intervention. It cited failure to adhere to clinical assessment protocols and significant staffing shortages as direct contributors. The Oncology Follow-up Imaging Protocol, OFIP, had been bypassed, a critical oversight. The findings hit the news hard. Local media outlets picked up the story, highlighting the systemic failures. Social media buzzed with outrage. Linda's rule trending briefly as a call for accountability. Community groups started petitions, demanding action. The pressure mounted, forcing ABC General Hospital to respond. Their second statement was notably different. We acknowledge there were breakdowns in communication and protocol adherence in this specific case, it read. We are committed to reviewing our internal processes and implementing necessary changes. A crack had appeared in their wall of denial. I knew this was just the beginning. I looked at Dr. Reyes, a fierce determination hardening my gaze. This is why we need Linda's rule. The fight for policy, for prevention, had just begun. Months melted into a relentless pursuit, yet the ache of absence remained. While nothing could bring Mom back, a profound shift began to take shape. This past spring, a new statewide policy, fittingly named Linda's Rule was officially enacted. It mandates rigorous follow-up procedures for oncology patients with elevated risk markers, ensuring that initial misdiagnoses don't become missed opportunities for life-saving care. The rule requires designated healthcare coordinators to oversee all patient follow-ups, establishing a clear chain of command and accountability. Compliance checks are now conducted every 3 months, a critical safeguard against oversight. Implementation for Linda's rule is rolling out across all oncology departments statewide, prioritizing high-risk facilities first. The state legislature allocated $500,000 for essential training and resources, targeting full compliance within the next year. Now, families can formally request mandatory follow-up assessments, giving them a voice and a mechanism for accountability. Staff are legally bound to escalate elevated risk scores, with a strict 48-hour maximum response time for at-risk patients. Monthly audits and feedback loops ensure ongoing adherence. Already the impact is tangible. Over 50 patients have been successfully assessed under the new protocols. One woman's early-stage cancer was detected simply because Linda's rule triggered a timely follow-up. Yet challenges persist. Cultural changes within administrative resistance are real, and resources remain stretched thin. I stood at the bill signing, the pen in my hand, a heavy symbol of bittersweet triumph. Seeing Linda's rule in print was a moment of immense pride, but it couldn't erase the image of her laughter on the porch. The system might be changing, lives might be saved, but the one life I fought hardest for, my mom's, was still gone. 2 years have passed since that devastating day in June 2022. The ache of absence remains, a hollow space in my life. As an investigative journalist, my work now centers on healthcare oversight, driven by what happened to Mom. Every morning, I feel her absence as I sip coffee alone. Instead of hearing her bright plans for her elementary students, Linda M. Thompson would be 61 now. She'd be planning her dream trip to Europe, probably critiquing art history books, or filling her classroom with the familiar scent of fresh crayons. That dedication defined her. Every year, thousands of American families face similar preventable tragedies due to medical misdiagnosis. My mom's experience highlighted the critical importance of recognizing warning signs. Persistent lump growth, escalating pain, unexplained high fever, or unusual lethargy are not symptoms to be dismissed. They are urgent calls for attention. From this tragedy, my fight for accountability evolved into concrete action. I learned to document every interaction. I learned to question dismissive medical advice and to cite specific protocols, like the BCSAS score. Most importantly, I learned to escalate concerns relentlessly until my voice was heard. This past spring, Linda's rule was officially enacted statewide. This new policy mandates rigorous follow-up procedures for oncology patients with elevated risk markers. It allocates $500,000 for essential training, targeting full compliance within the next year. Over 50 patients have already been successfully assessed under its new protocols, including one woman whose early-stage cancer was detected simply because of a timely follow-up. Yet, Challenges persist as cultural changes within administrative resistance are real. Families can now formally request mandatory follow-up assessments, ensuring a voice in their loved one's care. Staff are legally bound to escalate elevated risk scores with a strict 48-hour maximum response time for at-risk patients. Our vigilance in healthcare cannot be overstated. Lives depend on it. Trust, but always verify. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. I close my eyes and see Mom tending to her garden, her hands covered in rich soil. Sunlight glistens on her joyful face as she laughs, a sound that echoes through my memory. Fresh blooms fill the air with earthy scents, a vibrant contrast to sterile hospital halls. Mom was love in bloom, and I'll keep fighting for that love to flourish, even after loss.